understanding and managing life traps. Hello and welcome back to our channel. We are one more step closer to know ourselves. In the last video, we talked about life traps, those recurring patterns that shape how we think, feel, and act. Here's the thing, life traps stick with us. You can't just make them disappear. But don't worry, because the good news is that you can manage and even change how you respond to them. Before we get into how to do that, let's talk about something important. The wrong ways people try to deal with their life traps. That's what today's discussion is all about. Understanding these common mistakes and why they don't work. So, how do life traps actually work, and how do we deal with them? The way we cope with life traps often goes back to our childhood. Imagine two kids growing up in a harsh environment with critical or neglectful parents. One might end up feeling powerless and just go along with whatever happens, becoming overly passive. The other might rebel, acting out and trying to escape as soon as possible.
These are examples of coping styles, which are basically the ways we try to handle life traps. There are three main coping styles. Surrender. This is when you just accept the life trap and live with it. Overcompensation. This is when you fight back by doing the opposite of what the life trap suggests, but to an extreme. Avoidance. This is when you try to dodge the life trap completely by avoiding situations or emotions that might trigger it.
Let me give you a few real-life examples to make this clearer. I once worked with a young woman who apologized constantly. Everything that happened, she'd find a way to blame herself. When I asked why, she told me she'd grown up with a mother who criticized her harshly. Over time, she developed a life trap of feeling defective and ashamed. Her way of coping? Surrender. This constant self-blame became her way of avoiding further criticism, as if apologizing first might shield her from judgment. However, it also reinforced her feelings of unworthiness, creating a cycle where her surrender to the life trap only deepened her sense of defectiveness and shame. Now let's look at overcompensation. Another client, a highly successful doctor, came to therapy only because his wife insisted. He was arrogant, dismissive, and kept saying, "I don't need therapy. She's the one with the problem." When we dug deeper, we found that his parents had also been extremely critical during his childhood. But unlike the first example, he coped by pretending he was perfect. This facade of perfection became his shield, a way to protect himself from ever feeling vulnerable or inadequate again. However, beneath the arrogance was a deeply insecure individual who struggled to acknowledge his pain, leaving him disconnected from both his true self and meaningful relationships. Finally, there's avoidance. I worked with a young man whose family was frustrated because, despite his intelligence and potential, he wasn't doing anything with his life. He spent his days hanging out with friends, avoiding responsibilities, and even turning to substances like marijuana. It turns out he'd grown up with strict, controlling parents who put immense pressure on him. His response? Avoid everything. By staying in a constant state of avoidance, he numbed himself to the fear of failure and the overwhelming expectations he associated with responsibility. Unfortunately, this escapism also prevented him from taking steps toward growth and fulfillment, leaving him stuck in a cycle of temporary relief but long-term stagnation.
Here's the takeaway. These coping styles might help in the short term, but in the long run, they make things worse. The young woman felt some relief when she apologized, but her deeper issues stayed unresolved. The doctor's overcompensation gave him temporary confidence, but it kept him from meaningful connections. And the young man's avoidance kept him comfortable for now, but it stalled his personal growth. Over time, these ineffective coping styles can trap us in a cycle where the life trap grows stronger, making it even harder to break free. The longer we rely on these strategies, the more they shape our identity, keeping us stuck in patterns that prevent us from living a fulfilling and authentic life. Breaking free from these patterns starts with awareness, recognizing how our coping styles are tied to deeper, unresolved wounds from the past. Once we identify these connections, we can begin to challenge the automatic responses that keep us stuck. This process often requires courage, as it means confronting uncomfortable emotions and beliefs we've avoided for years. However, by addressing the root causes of our life traps, we can replace ineffective strategies with healthier ways of thinking and behaving. Over time, this shift not only reduces the grip of the life trap, but also opens the door to personal growth, stronger relationships, and a more authentic and fulfilling life. In the next video, we'll dive into how to address life traps in a healthier, more effective way. I'll share practical tips to help you make real changes. If you found this video helpful and want to keep learning with me, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. Take care, and remember, change starts with awareness, and you've already taken the first step.